Lorenzo. Thank you for taking part in the Hidden Disability campaign that we're running at the moment. What we're doing is interviewing people with different disabilities that are maybe hidden to the community. And I wonder if you could maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name's Lorenzo Crispini. I was born with a hearing disability, so a hearing impairment. And my hearing impairment is about high-pitched noises, so struggling to hear the telephone, the S's, the T's, the P's and words. And when I was younger, I had to go to speech therapy to make sure, because I couldn't hear the sounds, I had to learn how to pronounce them myself.
Which sounds are difficult for you, like words?
Yeah, so the S's, the T's, so I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between CH at the start of a word and SH at the start of a word. Yeah, stuff like that.
Tell us about the impact that might have had as a child.
Well, I couldn't pronounce words properly. There are some embarrassing stories. I couldn't pronounce the word stick, and as a little boy, when you go to the park, sticks are the coolest things in the world. So I used to say, "Look, mummy, I found a dick." I don't know if you can put that on the website, but so that was quite awkward for my parents. Or I couldn't hear the R in drink, so I used to say, "Mummy, can I have a dink?"
Okay.
There's all kinds of examples. So people couldn't understand me. I was getting frustrated, and obviously they realised there was a problem there and needed to get that fixed.
Excellent. We'll talk a little bit more about how that had an impact in adulthood, but we're just talking about childhood. What would have been helpful to you, people in the community, whether it's teachers, people you interact with in sport, to understand about having a hearing impairment?
Well, I think I did get a lot of support actually. Luckily for me, all of my friends were very understanding. And the teachers made sure they looked at me and they would sort of facilitate making sure other school kids would try and look at me. But obviously at a young age, they're not always remembering to look at me, for example. And I think the only caveat is back then, the states, or I don't know if it's the states, a body wanted me to go to a disability school, which is fine. But I wasn't, at that stage, it wasn't sort of tiered in the right way. So my mum was saying, well, he is intelligent, he can hear, but it was just to a smaller level. He just needs a couple of hearing aids and he can keep up with everyone else in class. So she fought against that, and luckily for me, that's what's happened.
Right.
Yeah.
As a child, Lorenzo, you tell us a little bit about how it may have been difficult with a hearing impairment and what teachers or the community could do differently?
Yeah, so I actually was quite lucky. My teachers made sure they faced me, articulated their words, spoke a little bit slower. I was always at the front of the class, and I think there are special schools for special disabilities, and I was lucky enough to go to a little college and have the hearing support to get me through that education.
Right. So for your impairment, there was support there to make sure that you stayed in mainstream school?
Yeah, I had a great audiologist, Mr. Stammen, very friendly gentleman. Used to come into my school with a little briefcase, and I thought it was the Bat suitcase. It was quite cool, all these gadgets, and yeah, got hearing aids. It was a bit, as a kid, it was a bit awkward because I had no role models who also wore hearing aids. No grandparents, no relative, no one I knew. So I did feel self-conscious wearing them. Everyone was there and point, and little kids will point. It's something they haven't seen before. So it knocked my confidence a little bit, but that's minute. You know, you can get over that. But that was a challenge.
Okay, thank you. And today, if you don't mind me saying, you're wearing your hearing aid. Maybe Ollie could just use that as an example about how sophisticated they've become, and the fact that if I didn't know, I probably wouldn't even be able to see.
Yeah, so you probably can't see my hearing aid on at the moment. I'm supposed to have two, but my left one's broken, so I'll fix that. But in the olden days, it was just a loud microphone. So when I used to run, you get that sound where you think you're running super fast. And then it would, sounds that I could hear clearly were just even louder, and the smaller sounds, it's the tone that I couldn't hear, not necessarily the volume. So now it just highlights the elements that are the elements that I can't hear. They lower the tone slightly, and it's very scientific. I don't know the real reason how they do it, and it's much more advanced. It picks up the sounds that I need to hear and focuses on those. One thing they did do in the progress, so it was we made everything louder, and then they said, well, you face people, could you lip read them? So what we'll do is we'll cut out all the background sound, and only who you look at we'll focus the sound on. And I said, well, that's great, but what happens if there's a bus behind me, or someone's I need to hear something behind me? So they put one at the front and one at the back, but then what happens if my golf classes are talking at the back? And it's a very hard challenge, but they pick up the loudest sound, so hopefully the teacher is talking loudest, and I pick up that hearing now, today. Okay, great. Which wasn't very concise at all, but
that's okay. No, it's all about technology. Yeah. I think the key thing is about how technology has hopefully made interacting and taking part in life more easier. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, technology's made it much easier. Again, old technology, when I used to have my hearing aids, I couldn't pick up the telephone because it would just react. Yeah. Now I think they have, I want to call it a microcoil, but it's basically, because the way a speaker works, it's electromagnets that pump the sounds with two cones that make the sound. So I've got a speaker in my hearing aid that goes into my ear canal. Equally, there's a speaker on the other end of the phone, and the two magnets would just collide. I don't know how they fixed it, but they fixed it, which is really good.
Great, brilliant. You talk any more about things that maybe made life a little bit more difficult? One of the things about hidden disability is that people aren't aware, especially with technology today. We can hardly see your hearing aids. You talk a little bit more about different situations that you've been in that were...
Yeah. So some people like putting their hands in front of their mouths, which is really frustrating because I can't lip read. And some people have a preference for telephones, and often it's fine. But if it's a bad line, in my working life, I have a lot of conference calls with people on the roads, and they, bless them, they like to have conference calls with their window open on a M25 or something. So that's quite challenging because of the background noise. So my preference would be an email or a text, or face-to-face conversation. And the other challenge as well is when you have meetings and you want to lip read people, but you also want to write down notes. That can be a challenge. But I've kind of mastered that. But what I will do is I sit in the corner of the room on a meeting room table so that I can lip read everyone, rather than in the middle where it's a bit harder to see everyone in a debate.
Right, some really good tips there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Interesting, we're sat near the airport. Is that bothering you?
No, I mean I can hear the aeroplane, but my hearing aids pick up the loudest sound, which is you.
That'll make a few people laugh. I told off for talking too much the other day. Excellent, great. You tell us a little bit more about going into adulthood. You know, any issues that may have arisen, or things that the community can do differently that it's maybe different as a child.
Yeah, I think just be a bit patient. If you're having to repeat yourself and you're not facing that person, that is a key indicator. Sometimes some people talk really fast, you've got to slow down a little bit. But there is a balance between, and it is hard not to be patronising by saying, hello, can you hear me? There's a balance of just slowing down and did you understand what I said? And if you've asked someone, it's a very British thing when someone says, sorry, what's your name? And you ask 3 times and then you go, okay. But if someone's not hearing you, just write it down for them. Oh, here's my business card, or do something to help them, and choose email as a form of communication. And if you really need to telephone them, then yeah, telephone them.
Great. So I've met you for the first time. As far as I know at the moment, there's no visual impairment. I haven't even thought about whether there's any impairments. What would you say to me if you were struggling? I had my hands down, talking fast. Like, would you be comfortable in saying, I have a hearing impairment and this is what I'd like you to do?
I am now. I had a bit of a confidence issue when I was younger, but I would now, in a CV, applying for a job, I would say I'm hard of hearing, but I've got hearing aids. I'm fully capable. But I have to admit that a few years ago, absolutely not. I wouldn't put that on my CV. That they might see that as a hindrance. What I would like to put as a message out to employers is, sometimes there's advantages. Because I lip read, I can read body language arguably better. I can see instantly if someone's a little bit upset or a little bit anxious. I used to joke with an old manager that I always knew whether she was going to give me good or bad news before a meeting, because the walk to the meeting room, you could just see how fidgety she was and so forth. So yeah, I think there are, you could argue, because I lip read and read body language, that someone with a hearing impairment might be really good in customer service. They can understand the customer instantly and understand how to approach them. So I think definitely there are skills that can be taken from people with various disabilities that are highly employable.
Great, that's a really good snippet for work. What I just need to do is make that about me meeting Lorenzo for the first time in a bar or something. And you, pretty much what I'm trying to ask is, would you be prepared to say, I'm really sorry, I can't hear you, I have, I'm hard of hearing.
Yeah.
So if you could, I think sometimes I'm asking a question, we don't generally put my question in, do we? So we need to get Lorenzo to answer it as if he's answering the question. And so if I met you for the first time,
if I was to meet you for the first time in a bar,
blah,
for
blah,
example,
blah.
and then carry on. So basically, you don't need to hear Karen's
we don't.
Okay.
So if you can sort of answer the question with the question, is that
Yeah.
what we're saying? Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay. So so if I was to meet you in the bar for the first time and I was struggling to hear you, absolutely, I would say, sorry, I'm hard of hearing. Would you mind facing me or speaking a bit louder or going somewhere slightly quieter? If it's a girl, that might sound a bit weird. Often on nights out, people will say, "Oh, I love this song," and I really have to stop and concentrate to hear the song. So yeah, that doesn't impact me.
Great. Thank you. There's a question we get asked quite a lot, so that's interesting. Great, some good stuff there. We've got work. You were diagnosed young, so normally we'd ask people about the diagnosis, but that's
stigma. Have we talked about?
Yes, good point.
So what's over there?
Stigma.
Stigma, yeah.
So, you answer it as if
Yeah.
I'd asked it. Sorry. I see all you can do.
So in terms of stigma, one thing that does frustrate me is, and I've had a recent incident of this, is I wasn't fit to sit in allegedly, wasn't fit to sit in a certain emergency seat in an aeroplane. And I said, but I'm able-bodied, I can lift the weight, I can see, and I've got hearing aids. I do have a hearing loss, but I've got hearing aids to bring me back up to the level that is competent. But apparently still I wasn't allowed to sit in that seat. Now, if someone didn't have great eyesight, didn't have their contact lenses in because they were slightly hungover or whatever reason, would you stop them sitting in that? And that really angered me, because that's a clear misunderstanding of what able-bodied actually means. And it's just ticking boxes and hiding behind policies they don't understand properly. So anyway, I was a bit embarrassed and a bit annoyed about that. So why would you treat someone with glasses differently to someone with hearing or someone in a wheelchair? You know, we're all the same people, we all have different abilities. So yeah, that stigma annoys me.
That's a goodie. That's a really good one. It's a good example. It's very. What would be great is that'd be really relevant for customer. We're doing customer service.
Yeah.
Let's try a stigma that could be me, because what we want is somebody who's sitting there going, oh, "I've done that before." So, for example, before I met, and you picked up on this about meetings, but we'll leave that in the work one. Before I met Leonie, I drive around in my phone. The only time I speak to people is when I'm going from one meeting to another with my car phone, so we could emphasise that again. I used to call her and leave a voicemail instead of texting her.
Mm.
You know, so if we could maybe go through, that's not stigma so much, but let's finish on another
That's
bit.
like a practical.
Yeah, let's sort of
Yeah.
finish on that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can give you a practical example of the telephone banking. So you get someone from Pakistan, and then you say, "Can I
Let's
have
say
an?"
that again, maybe without the
Yeah, sorry. Oh yeah, I forgot you're still filming. So an example I had recently was I was doing telephone banking. I needed telephone my bank and sort out an issue. And as is sometimes the case, the call centre is in somewhere in Asia, maybe, and there's quite a strong accent, and not their fault. But I was struggling to hear, and I said, "Look, I'm really, really sorry. I can't hear very well. It might be the line, it might be the accent, but do you have anyone where their first language is English?" And they said, "Absolutely, sir, no problem." They took it really, really well, which is very good. And to be fair, they did exactly what I asked. English speaking, first language is English, but it was the strongest Scottish accent. Which put me back in a dilemma. I didn't know if I could can I have someone with a certain accent part of Guernsey? But they did everything that I asked them to do, and we got there in the end. The lady was brilliant. She talked very slowly, repeated herself, turned up the volume on her phone, and we got the job done.
Right.
So it's fine.
Do you mind me asking if you let her know that you were hard of hearing?
Yeah. Actually, maybe not. I should have done, and I have no shame in saying it. I don't know why. I just didn't.
Right, thank you. That's an important point for us, because when you said what you said, you asked them to speak slower, and but didn't mention that you were hard of hearing. So I think that's a really important point. This is something Leonie and the Deaf Children's Society is starting to talk about. Why is it that we're not prepared to get stage pretty much straight away? Like when she was taken into customer service place, and the woman was looking down, rather than the first thing being, "I'm sorry, I'm hard of hearing. Could you please, you know?"
Yeah.
So good. Okay.
I don't know.
I think that one would be a really, if you don't mind, just the fact they asked that question at the end, comedy and the. Oh yeah, I didn't mention my impairment. So
Yeah.
Yeah, or hard of hearing. Sorry.
My view of the one where they went, "Oh no, who's right to do that because this is the rule." And so I googled the rule, and I was like, "You're not getting away with it that easily." And I basically said, "No, it said just not able-bodied," and I was like, "I am able-bodied. Obviously, I'm quite biased about that." But but I was like, I went to the point of if someone had a hearing loss or diabetic or epileptic or hidden disabilities, would you know that? Would you stop them?
Yes.
And I said, I didn't ask.
So how did they know that? How did
well, you sat me
they
down.
actually saw?
Well, I didn't ask.
I'm just wondering, because you can hardly see it.
Yeah, I didn't ask to sit in those seats. So they said, "Would you mind sitting in these seats?" Yeah, I've done it hundreds of times.
Yeah.
And then I sat down in the seat, and he comes over and he's like, "Oh, are those hearing aids?" I went, "Yeah." And he went, you can't sit here." I went, "I've sat here loads of times. What's the problem?" He went, "Oh, yeah, very sorry, you can't sit here. I'm going to have to ask you to move here." And it's just a big scene as well. And I was like, I'm too tired, because I've been travelling loads, and I just went, I'm too tired to have a go. But when I get my strength back, I am going to send a rather factual, emotional, moved out of it, but clearly disappointed email. And they've replied and they said, he did it, he's right because of la-di-da. And I went, well, if that's the case, you haven't done that for about 30 years, because I've worn hearing aids all of my life. And also, it shows a clear misunderstanding of, and I said, I'm not after compensation, I'm asking you to train your staff and make sure they understand what able-bodied actually means.
So can you give us a couple of tips for any of us in the community about what we can do differently?
Yeah, I think it's actually when you're in a taxi, because I lip read people, and taxi drivers are very sociable, lovely people, but they're obviously looking at the road and they're talking, but I need to lip read them in their wing mirror, not their wing mirror, so their rear mirror, and I can't hear what they're saying. It's really embarrassing. But they're great. They're very, you just say, "Sorry, I lip read people," and they're fine. They talk a bit louder, and it's always about football, isn't it? So, that really helps. And likewise, if I'm driving and I've got people in the back, same thing. I need to see you in the mirror to be able to hear what you're saying.
Right, we do a couple of those. Lorenzo, some tips for all of us in the community, maybe about calling you, contacting you, going out with you. Could you give us a couple of tips that would help?
Yeah, I mean, certainly local businesses, it's getting much better in Guernsey, but a big plus for me is being able to book a restaurant online. Because when you phone a restaurant, typically there's loads of background noise, they're in the kitchen, or there's background music in that one. If they can set it up that I can email you, amazing. That would be really helpful. And that's not just for restaurants, that's all businesses. An option to email would be really, really good.
Have you had the trouble with the States where you've asked them to email and they keep not doing it, they keep ringing you back?
No.
Else has. That's a good one. Okay, good. That was brilliant. That's nice. Another little snippet. Just need a few things for people, like your mates.
Yeah.
So even if it's not you, if you could say the ones Leonie said, if you think it's relevant, like, you know, if I'm asking people to get hold of me, I often ask them to text me or email me. So we keep that about friends,
Well, yeah, I think for my friends sometimes they're brilliant and they understand, because I've been friends with them for years, thankfully. But they occasionally there could be a group joke and you have to hear the joke first time to get it. And it's just an understanding of, sorry, what was the joke? Would you mind repeating it? And sometimes you lose that joke, but you can feel a little bit left out. So just a bit of understanding to repeat the joke. Okay, it may not be funny anymore, but at least you can keep up in that respect. And then what I say to my hockey colleagues is, because of the tone of voice, if you've got a high-pitched voice, I probably won't be able to pass to you because I won't hear it. So I need you to shout in a low voice, pass the ball, and I might.
It's so brilliant. I love them. So we've got sport, work. What was the other thing? When you just said something there.
Mates and jokes.
Right.
We've got friends in there as well.
Friends. So just Joe Blogs. I've just met you for the first time, Lorenzo. We talked about a bar. Where else would you meet people? Customer service. Have we said very clearly about look me in the face? Was that in something to do with work or?
Yeah. I think it's been reinforced in a number of different things. So look at me squarely. Don't talk like this.
But it could be I don't know. It could be anything from passport offices or bank cashiers. They often go, "Yeah, how can I help?" And I'm going, "Sorry, can you lift your face up so I can listen to you?" I'm just trying to think of other scenarios where you bar.
Okay, that's good. One thing I think I want to catch for social media. Well, you've got it for me anyway. Lorenzo, you seem to use your sense of humour a lot. Do you think that's something that you've developed?
Quite possibly, yeah. Because I do use my sense of humour as perhaps a defence mechanism. Not obviously conscious of it. It's a good question. I think one of the best things that happened to me was in my yearbook, leaving Elizabeth College, you had a photo, your nickname, and someone else would write a quote. And one of my friends, it was very on the line of politically correct, but he said, "Don't pretend you heard that, Lorenzo," as like the most common quote people would say to me. And I actually found that really funny. And it was a real understanding with everyone that, yeah, he's partly deaf. We can have a laugh about it. I think if you're too sensitive, people walk on eggshells around you, and it's not great for social interactions and being included in environments. So that, I think that kind of made me take the comedy route. And what my friends will say all the time is, I have some of the funniest stories, and one of my friends said, "I reckon I could write a book about you and it would be a top seller," which is great, because you can share these funny experiences. You can be the comedian if you like, and you've got everyone who actually want to be around you because they share your embarrassing stories or your just funny ones, and it's lovely. It's great. It's what you want with your friend, to share. Everyone's got embarrassing stories. Able-bodied, not able-bodied, or people with disabilities or without disability. They're all funny. You've got to laugh about them. I don't know if that answered your question. It's a bit.
It is, yeah, no, it's fine.
Waffly.
It's just really that saying, maybe you could actually even say it, something like along the lines of, humour's just really important to you and developing the friendships, and in some ways your impairment, it sounds like you use it. I say impairment, I know you like, it's like you're hard of hearing, but you know, for you it's a breakdown of barriers. That could be like a really good ending, something along, if you're all right with
it's fun. So yeah, I think I do use humour, comedy in kind of like a defensive mechanism, but I don't think I've always been conscious of it, because I think it's something embarrassing can happen. You can either cry about it or laugh about it, and I laugh about it, my friends laugh with me, they share my pain, but they will also laugh about it. I think guys can be quite brutal. You talk about football dressing rooms, you know, if someone misses a penalty, they'll rip the mickey out of you. It's like that, and I would do the same about them if they bought a really embarrassing piece of clothing. You know, it's all part of the banter. I hate saying that word, but banter, and it creates a great environment. Yeah, so when I was at university, I phoned them up to say I've got hard of hearing and I might need a note taker or something, and they came back to me and they said, well, do you need accommodation on the ground floor? And I said, well no, I can walk. And then they said, do you need a fire alarm with a flashing light? And I went, well, no, I can still hear it. I've just got a small hard of hearing. I just need a little bit of support. But it was all of this, do you need a door that can open unaided? So you press a button and it's just, I was like, no, I don't. It doesn't matter. I'll talk to you when I get there. But it was quite funny.
Excellent. I sort of understand the fire alarm one. Can we miss that one out?
Yeah, sorry, yeah, I can do that.
The door and the ground floor is the classic.
And the disabled
whereas
toilet.
the flashing light, you
Go
on, let's do
yeah.
quickly. Sorry, we've got a second, let's do that.
So when I went to university, or before I went to university, I phoned them up and said, just to let you know, I'm hard of hearing, I might need some support on note takers, because I lip read and so forth. And the response I got was, do you need a room on the ground floor? And I said, well no, I can walk, it's fine. And then they were saying, do you need a disabled toilet? And I was like, again, no. But yeah, it was again a classic example of not understanding various disabilities. It's just disabilities, you're in a wheelchair,